Nana fed us lunch the same way every day. White kerchief tied over the coiled gray braid at the nape of her neck, small gold earrings bouncing gently, and lips sucked in over toothless gums. She carried a delicious-smelling pot from the stove to the table. She dipped in a spoon and loaded it with a flavorful mush of potatoes, meat, tomatoes, and string beans. Holding her hand under it to catch any spills, she brought it toward my face. I opened my mouth and she slipped it in. While I chewed, she refilled the spoon and ferried it to my cousin Jerry's mouth. Next was my cousin George's. If food dripped down our chins, Nana scraped it upward with the spoon and guided it into our mouths. All the while she told us stories. "The farmer, he work hard to plant the vegetables," she would begin. "He put water and take out all the weeds." My turn for the spoon. "He no see the horse what come in tonight to eat the vegetables." Jerry's turn. "And he think to himself, why all the vegetables, they disappear like that? What's happen?" George's turn. "And he say, I gon' find out who take the vegetables." The farmer hid in the field with his gun. There was a loud bam. Nana always timed it perfectly. Just as the horse was running away, spinach dangling from his mouth, the pot would be empty. After we got up to play, Nana walked to the sink, swaying from side to side on her bowed legs, and washed the pot and spoon. She stopped at the stove to lift the lids from the supper pots and give a quick stir. Then she took my baby brother Marvin out of his playpen. Carrying him in her arms, she went back down to the basement to sew. I loved staying in my grandparents' house, where we had been living for the past 3 months, since my father left for the war. During the day, my mother and aunts were at work, and Papu peddled aprons and pillowcases to housewives in Brighton Beach. Nana, the lone adult at home, sewed aprons and took care of the children. Sometimes we played in the backyard, sometimes in the basement, where we crawled in and out of the empty cartons next to Nana's sewing machine and Marvin's playpen, or climbed up the mountain of fabric scraps and slid down. Though not yet 3, I sensed that the rules were looser here in Brooklyn. When my parents and I had lived in Knickerbocker Village on the Lower East Side of Manhattan, I hadn't been allowed to put anything into my mouth. If someone else's mouth had touched it, germs. There had been no stories at the table. Most of the mealtime talk had been Spanish practice. If I wanted bread and butter, I had to say, "Quiero pan y mantequilla, per favor," or my father reading aloud to my mother from the newspaper. And punishment at Nana's wasn't really punishment. Once, when Jerry and I did something we weren't supposed to, Aunt Molly said, "You naughty children," but she was smiling. I would find out years later that my mother also felt freer away from my father's control. When she had brought me home from the hospital as a newborn, he'd forbidden her to use baby talk with me, no coo-cooing. She was permitted to speak English, but he spoke to me only in Spanish. To him, I was a grown-up in miniature, one step away from the harsh realities of the job world, and it would be useful if I knew another language. My father had also appointed himself the guardian of my health. Every evening, he demanded a report from my mother. Where did you go with her today? It was chilly out. Did you put a sweater on her? It was hot. Did she sweat? How much milk did she drink? When I caught my first cold at 9 months, he berated her. She hadn't dressed me properly, he said. Hadn't opened the window wide enough when she put me to sleep. My mother said she began to feel like hired help. My parents met in March 1941 at a foreign language conversation club in Manhattan. Both were first-generation Americans whose parents, hers Jews from Greece and Turkey, his Jews from Russia, had come to America through Ellis Island early in the century.